In the dimly lit upper room of a house in Jerusalem, 13 men gathered for what would become one of the most significant meals in history. The smell of roasted lamb, herbs, and fresh bread filled the air as they reclined around a low wooden table. It was Passover, and they were there to remember the Exodus, the ancient story of deliverance from Egypt. But this night was different. Jesus, their teacher and friend, sat at the head of the table, his face solemn but calm. His 12 disciples sensed something was unusual, though they didn't fully understand what was to come. The weight of their 3 years together, the teachings, the miracles, the moments of wonder, hung heavily over them. As the meal began, Jesus took the bread in his hands. The disciples watched as he blessed it, broke it into pieces, and handed it to them, saying something that left them puzzled. "Take, eat, this is my body." They glanced at each other, unsure of what he meant, but obediently took the bread. There was an air of mystery in his words, something deeper than tradition. Then, Jesus took a cup of wine, raised it to his lips, and passed it to the others. "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." The room grew still. The gravity of his words settled over them like a thick mist. This wasn't just any meal, this was a farewell. The disciples' eyes darted nervously, not fully understanding, but sensing the importance of this moment. They knew the authorities were hunting for Jesus, that danger was near. But still, they could not grasp what he was saying. Jesus looked around at them, his gaze landing on each of their faces, even on Judas, who was hiding a terrible secret in his heart. The teacher's expression remained full of love, despite knowing that betrayal was close at hand. As the evening wore on, Jesus spoke to them as a father would to his children, preparing them for the future. He talked of love, of service, and of the Holy Spirit who would come to guide them when he was gone. But he also spoke of suffering, his own, and theirs. The night grew darker. The disciples felt it pressing in around them, and unspoken dread creeping into their hearts. They had followed him for so long, leaving everything behind, and now he spoke as if he was leaving them. The thought was unbearable. Then, as the meal came to a close, Jesus stood and did something that shocked them all. He knelt and began to wash their feet. The disciples protested, not understanding why their master would take on the role of a servant. But Jesus said softly, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." In silence, they watched as their teacher humbled himself, showing them once again what it meant to lead through love and humility. As the night grew late, they sang a hymn together and prepared to leave. But before they departed, Jesus gave them one final commandment: "Love one another as I have loved you." With that, they rose and left the room, stepping into the cold night. Jesus led them toward the Mount of Olives, where the weight of the coming hours would fall upon him alone. His disciples, though still in the dark about what lay ahead, followed faithfully, unaware that this was the last supper they would ever share with him. In the garden, the betrayal would soon unfold, the arrest would come, and the events leading to the cross would begin. But for that fleeting moment, in the upper room, they had shared not just a meal, but a covenant, one that would change the world forever.